What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the CotAcasT. My name is Bermudez, and I'm the host of Craft of the Air podcast. The podcast not only for aviation enthusiasts, but also those with a general interest in the world of aviation. Join us on our journey as we explore the horizon of aviation together. I'm so glad that you guys are tuned in for another episode. There were just so many topics that I wanted to go into in this CotAcasT, but I picked three, and you gotta listen. You gotta listen through this. I mean, this one, it's good stuff. Three topics that we'll take a look at today. And the first one, will we see chartered flights for all players in the WNBA? Take a look at a very interesting report that I read about that. Chartered flights for everybody in the WNBA. A lot of people would probably have assumed that players were already on chartered flights, on private air travel. So we'll take a look at that. That's pretty interesting. The second topic that we take a look at, that we discuss on today's CotAcasT, is the air travel system stressed to the max. No pun intended with the 37 MAX. But we'll take a look at a very interesting article that I had read about that. Is the air travel system stressed beyond the max? And with everything going on, and particularly all the incidents that we mentioned in the previous CotAcasT, is the air travel system in the United States stressed to the max? Take a look at that. And the third story on today's CotAcasT is going to make your day feel a lot better. If you're having a bad day, if you're not, save it, put it in your pocket, save it for a bad day. You gotta have to listen to the last one, because our British Airways crew member made just the worst mistake at London Heathrow Airport. About a 50,000 pound mistake, to be exact. That's about a little over $60,000 US dollars. And the kicker, you listening? I said it. The kicker, it was the person's first day of work. Yes. You could make a mistake on your first day of work, but man, that's a costly one. Today's episode of the CotAcasT is brought to you by Craft of the Air. Stop memorizing outdated content. Stop. Just stop it. Stop memorizing outdated content and rereading textbooks without really understanding your aviation content. You can read it like 3 times. It's still not going to make sense. If you're looking to obtain your airframe and power plant license to fix airplanes, Craft of the Air offers personalized learning sessions remotely from the convenience of your house. Are you in the field of aviation and need help accomplishing your next big project? Or are you tired? Are you getting tired of searching endlessly for unreliable data online? You got this tab open, you got that tab open, you're searching there, you're copying and pasting this. Stop it. Stop. Craft of the Air is the second you when you need it. Anything aviation. Visit www.craftoftheair.com. Again, that's www.craftoftheair.com today and speak with a federally licensed professional. Craft of the Air, our craft is of the air. You like that? The advertising, the potential it's definitely there. It's definitely there. Okay. The very first topic that we dive into on the CotAcasT today, will we see chartered flights for all players in the WNBA? This is a report by Ramona Shelburne, ESPN senior writer. And now the story begins with a former WNBA MVP, Breanna Stewart. For those of you who don't know who Breanna Stewart is, she's a beast. She's a 6-year WNBA vet. She's a two-time WNBA champion. She's a 2018 WNBA MVP. She's a two-time WNBA Finals MVP. That was in 18 and 20. She was actually the first ever WNBA Commissioner's Cup MVP. Her accolades just go on and on and on. She's a two-time USA Olympic women's basketball team gold medalist in 2016 and 2020. She's also a three-time USA Basketball Female Athlete of the Year. Anyway. So so it catches her attention. Of course. Respect. So now the former WNBA Breanna Stewart has made charter air travel a key factor in her free agency. Now the issue comes in. Now for those of you who are not familiar, now unlike the 30 NBA, the Men's Basketball Association, unlike the 30 NBA teams, the 12 WNBA teams, they currently travel on commercial airlines. Yeah, with the exception of rare circumstances, which is unusual. A lot of people probably assume that the professional athletes, they would be traveling chartered air travel. But now the issue of private air travel has come up, and we start to see it in free agency conversations around the WNBA. This was reported to ESPN. Now, this is because of the assumption. Now, this is going to Brittany Griner, the Phoenix Mercury center, Brittany Griner. And she'll likely need to fly privately due to security concerns after her release from, Russian prison in December. Griner has indicated that she wants to play for the Mercury again this season, but she's yet to ask for special travel accommodations. So now that's how we start to see this, coming into play. Now Stewart, she played with Griner on the U.S. national teams, and she's definitely been very supportive throughout everything that's gone on with Griner. And it's worth noting, and I found this really cool. That Stewart, she said that she would be willing to contribute money from her own name to help to ensure that the WNBA could travel privately. Props. So now the WNBA, team board of governors would have to vote to make modifications to the current system, and I found this really interesting. Brooklyn Nets guard Kyrie Irving, who is the vice president of the National Basketball Players Association, he actually voices support for the WNBA players to have chartered flights for travel. I'll quote him with this. He said, I wish it was as easy as getting it tomorrow, but business takes a little patience, and with our W ladies have been patient long enough. So we definitely got to get them something done, he said. And he went on to say, and I quote him, and I'm with them no matter how much it costs per se. I think I could all collectively come together and make something very doable happen, end quote. That was great. Not to kind of wrap out the story, and I really do hope that they're able to work that in to just be a standard, for all WNBA players, in my opinion. But it's worth noting. I gotta just throw this in, that the New York Liberty, which were one of the four teams, courting Stewart for free agency, they're actually fined $500,000 for chartering flights during the 22 season. Currently, the WNBA and its players have decided that no team can fly charter, even its ownership can pay for it. Unless, all the teams in the WNBA can pay for it. So, it's estimated that chartering travel for all the teams, it will cost $30 million. So we'll see. But that, I really don't think that's unreasonable. I think that's something that should just be a standard. But that's just me. That's just me. That's just me. The second topic on today's CotAcasT, air travel system. Is it stressed to the max? This comes from a story by Chris Eisendorf from CNN. And now this goes to all the problems that we've been seeing. Just on Wednesday with the bad weather. All the flights that were canceled. Now, there's a lot of questions. There's so many questions going. And now, interesting in this article, it goes to the statement: if airlines are to avoid repeats of recent service problems, they're gonna need a backup. Now, this is exactly what United CEO Scott Kirby was speaking about. Scott Kirby tells CNN Christian Romas in an interview this week, he says, and I quote him, "We can't run an airline like it's 2019. And the reason is because the system is just too stressed to the max." Now, firstly, Scott Kirby is the CEO of United Airlines, and his experience within the industry it's just tremendous. So it's wise to listen to something that Mr. Kirby has to offer, something he says. Now, I found this interesting because he mentions backups, and he mentions the system being stressed to the max right now, and it is. The shortages in just every single department in aviation. Kirby said, and I quote him, "There's strains everywhere, whether it's in security or FAA staffing or systems. Across the board, there are strains in the system. Aircraft manufacturers delivering, having enough pilots, and all of those stresses and strains mean that the system is tighter," end quote. He goes on to say, and when something happens, straws are much more likely to break the camel's back. And you've seen it over and over again. It just doesn't take much to break the back of the system, end quote. I have to agree with this. And we've just witnessed it firsthand. Kirby said one of the only solutions is for airlines to run with more backup planes and more backup staff in place than they have ever done in the days before the pandemic. And I strongly agree with Mr. Kirby. Kirby was quoted as saying, "We're running about 10% more pilots per block hour than we did pre-pandemic. We have 25% more spare airplanes. And really across the board, we're having more buffer and more resources that gives us the ability to firewall when something happens," end quote. This is just smart leadership. It's just almost like a no-brainer when you read it, but that's why he's the CEO. That's why he gets made to me excited. That's why he's all right. Kirby did insist that there are still bargains to be found. He went on to say you could still often pay less for airfare than the Uber to get you to the airport costs. How many people listening would agree to that? I'll ask you guys that question right now. How many people would agree? Now, being that a lot of people listening right now are in the New York metro area or New Jersey, how many people listening right now are in traffic? What? The BQE, David. Okay, back to this. But you know what? And I have to agree with that. You know, you could. It is very, very. That is not an impossibility. You can pay less for a flight than your actual Ubers. Tell me not. I'll set up a poll on this one. United's own financial results released last week showed the amount being paid by United passengers for every mile flown. And it actually showed that it was up 21% boing, in the fourth quarter compared to the same time in the last period in 2019, right before the pandemic. That's crazy. And United, now this is great news for United. And I really wanted to discuss this on the podcast because this is great for everybody in aviation, I think. And United did place 2 major aircraft orders in the last 2 years. One was in June 21, and that was the largest in the airline's history. That order was for 200 37 Maxes. And also they ordered 70 Neos, Airbus A321 Neos. And the other was in December. And that was for at least 100 more 37 Maxes and 100 Dreamliners, 787 Dreamliners. Now, the other positive coming from United is that United's become one of the first U.S. airlines to open its own pilot training school. And Mr. Kirby went on to say it's been a great opportunity to train the next generation. There's just been big barriers to entry, and we're able to give them access even if they don't have the financial means on their own. And well, that's amazing. 70% of that program, the first graduating class, were women or people of color, as reported. That's amazing. And that's just great news coming from United. And personally, knowing a lot of people that work for United, that's just amazing. All right, that's all I gotta say about that. Last topic on the CotAcasT. There's no editing on this. Here's what you get. That's it. This is the last topic on today's CotAcasT, and it's gonna make you feel a lot better about your day, even if you're having a good day. And it's a horrible story really for the person that it happened to and everybody that were involved, and the delays. Is that shouldn't be laughing, but it happens, and things like this do happen in aviation, and it's unfortunate. And despite constant training on how and when to use emergency equipment on board, the aircraft flight attendants, much like just about anybody else, the mechanics, the pilots, they can make a mistake. Who makes the most mistakes? Save that that's too controversial. Too controversial, too quick. Or should we set up a poll? Is it the mechanics? Is it the flight attendants? The pilots? Ops? I'll stop. Alright. Ramp. A recent mistake made by a British Airways cabin crew member cost the airline more than £50,000. £50,000. That's actually $62,000 about $62,000 and it actually resulted in the airline missing the takeoff slot. Yes. According to the Sun, a new employee was supposed to debut on his or her first flight. I'm not gonna say. I didn't even look at it. It doesn't matter. On a British Airways flight that was from London Heathrow and going to Lagos in Nigeria. However, this first day was just a disaster, man. Woof! I'm telling you. Got an extraordinary stressful scenario after the newcomer accidentally deployed the Boeing and this was a Boeing 777, by the way. They accidentally deployed the Boeing 777's emergency slide. Yes. The emergency slide on a 777. This happened when the plane had actually just pushed back from the stand at London Heathrow Airport while preparing for takeoff. Emergency services rushed to the scene in response to the potential incident, and due to the event, the British Airways flight was delayed for approximately an hour while the airline engineers solved the situation. The airline missed its allocated time slot. The British Airways flag carrier apologized for the inconvenience, and passengers continued their flight to Lagos with the same crew, except the newcomer on a replacement aircraft. That flight to Lagos, that's about a 6.5 hour flight. So, I mean, it's not, but that's, you just messed it up for everybody. We're gonna have to set up a poll, see how people feel about that. I mean, that's craziness. How does that accidentally happen? For the mechanics listening and the flight attendants listening, and the pilots listening, everybody should be listening to this CotAcasT. How does that accidentally happen? How many safety videos does every airline show us about that door? I mean, come on, man. That's a $62,000 mistake on your first airway. But that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the CotAcasT. If you have not done so already, guys, take this opportunity to check out the Craft of the Air website at www.craftoftheair.com and subscribe to the Craft of the Air Instagram page to always be in the loop. Thanks for listening, guys, to another episode. Before we go, show us some love. You guys can listen to us on Apple, Anchor, or Spotify. And make sure you guys tune in with the next episode. We're going to try to, it's a quick turnaround. This is a quick turnaround. Next episode, we'll try to post this sometime this weekend. Again, we might have a special guest coming on, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening again, and enjoy your day, guys.